I spent 3 years in prison for my fiancé. When I got out, I walked in on him hosting a welcome party for his mistress's illegitimate child, celebrating their marriage openly. That same day, I overheard the man who had been pursuing me telling my ex-fiancé that he was the one who had fabricated the evidence to send me away, and that even the medicine I drank was laced with contraceptives. I filed for divorce immediately and exposed their fraudulent accounting. My ex-fiancé and his mistress both ended up in prison. The man who had ruined me went bankrupt and then had his legs broken by someone. The day I went to prison, taking the blame for David's moonlight, he looked at me with red-rimmed eyes and said he'd wait for me. But later I learned that the child Sophia gave birth to was his. The day I got out, he was holding the baby, hosting a welcome party, and the invitations even announced the union of the David and Sophia families, wishing them a lifetime of happiness. Robert appeared at that moment. He took me away from the party, gave me a place to live, coaxed me into taking medicine, and finally proposed on his knees, saying he felt for the suffering I'd endured for 3 years. I thought a merciful God had finally descended, until I overheard him on the balcony talking to David. If I hadn't helped fabricate the evidence back then, how could Sarah have gone in so easily? Given Sophia's personality, she wouldn't tolerate any threat. I married her just to put Sophia at ease. But what about your future children? Won't they have to bear her crime for their whole lives? Robert's cold voice sounded again. The soup laced with contraceptives? I personally handed it to her. Don't worry, Sarah will never be able to have children. I touched my flat abdomen, remembering the doctor's congratulations this morning, and smiled silently. Since everything was a lie and a deception, I would disappear forever with this child who shouldn't exist. I stood in front of the mirror, nervously tugging at my dress hem. Today was my wedding day with Robert, but half an hour ago, Sophia appeared in the chapel wearing a pure white gown, looking even nobler and more innocent than me, the bride-to-be. All the guests were waiting to see me made a fool of. Finally, Robert, using the excuse that it was a day of great joy and not worth dwelling on, took me upstairs to change into my reception dress. The pink wedding dress I was wearing now was indeed exquisite, with layers of sheer fabric shimmering under the light, even custom-made by a famous Italian designer. But today was a grand wedding ceremony, and I, in a pink dress, looked like nothing more than a prop. What's wrong? Don't you like it? Robert wrapped his arms around me from behind, resting his chin lightly on my shoulder. No, it's not that. I hesitated, then spoke. It's just, shouldn't the bride wear white? Like Sophia's dress just now. He chuckled softly. White is too common. Pink is special, just like you. You'll always be one of a kind in my heart. Trust me, everyone will be captivated by your beauty. My ears felt a little warm. Robert was always like this, a sweet talker, often making me blush to no end. Don't be nervous, wife. He was adjusting my veil when his phone rang untimely. Robert picked it up, glanced at it, and hung up. Business partner, I'll go handle something. I'll come get you when I'm done. I nodded, then saw a message from my best friend, Jessica, asking me to come to the balcony for photos. After posing for just a few shots, I turned my head and saw Robert's figure appear in the private lounge. The glass door wasn't closed properly, and fragmented voices drifted out. Are you sure she won't find out? It was David's voice. Don't worry, she doesn't know anything. Robert's voice was chillingly unfamiliar. If I hadn't helped fabricate the evidence back then, how could she have willingly gone to prison? My breath hitched, and my fingers dug into the doorframe. Given Sophia's personality, she wouldn't tolerate any threat. I married her just to put Sophia at ease. But what about your future children? Won't they have to bear her crime for their whole lives? Robert's cold voice sounded again. The soup laced with contraceptives? I personally handed it to her. Don't worry, Sarah will never be able to have children, and the vitamins she takes every day are mixed with an anti-conception formula. There won't be any accidents." Saying this, Robert let out a sneer. I married her just to watch her. This scapegoat. How could I let her have my child and break the peace? In an instant, it felt like countless needles were twisting in my chest. The memories I had once cherished as sweet moments now became sharp blades stabbing into my heart. Seemed that every deep kiss, every intimate night, he never forgot my identity as a sacrificial lamb. Hearing this, David's voice carried a hint of mockery. "You've certainly thought of everything." Robert didn't deny his intentions, but instead spoke earnestly. "Sophia loves you and has had your child. You must treat her well. It won't make my sacrifice in vain." I stood frozen, my body turning cold. So that's what the pink wedding dress meant. I wasn't the bride in his heart, never was. From the beginning, I was a disposable pawn destined to be sacrificed in his game. And Sophia was the woman he held dearest. But how despicable he was, using my freedom and future to pave the way for her life. This moment, I hated my own foolishness, and even more, I hated his cruelty. What a pity, Robert. I lowered my head, my fingers gently tracing my abdomen. That bowl of soup you unusually made for me that day? I didn't drink a single drop. Now, standing before you, I am already 3 weeks pregnant. Sarah, why are you standing in the draft? Aren't you cold? Lost in thought, Robert's caring voice suddenly sounded behind me. I turned around and gave him a perfect smile. Finished talking? He reached out and pinched my cheek, his eyes as gentle as if he truly loved me. Yes, it's time to go down and greet guests, but I still didn't have the courage to face them, so I excused myself to the restroom to compose myself. The words on the balcony just now were like knives, cutting open all the doubts I'd had for the past 3 years. Why were there so many photos of them from college in Robert's study? In the pictures, he stood between David and Sophia, smiling so naturally. I had thought it was just a coincidence. And that time at the party, when the server asked about everyone's dietary restrictions, Robert blurted out, "No cilantro or garlic." That moment, I was sitting next to him, halfway through picking cilantro out of my bowl. I should have noticed during the alumni meeting. I couldn't help but mutter to myself. And even earlier, when there was a fire alarm during an event at our alma mater, he pushed me aside and told me to wait there. Then he rushed into the venue without looking back. Later, I found out Sophia was also there, and Robert was the one who rescued her. When he came back, his cuff was scorched and his face was smudged with ash, clearly having just gone through a life-or-death situation. This time I actually felt admiration and moved. Thinking about it now, how much must he have loved her? And I was so foolish. Even though the fire was spreading and my location was also in danger, he seemed to have never considered me. Just then, Robert's voice came from outside the door, interrupting my thoughts. "Sarah, are you ready? The guests are waiting." I turned off the faucet and took a deep breath. Person in the mirror had red eyes, but her makeup was still intact. "Almost ready," I replied, then looked down at the scar on my wrist. That was from being whipped with chains by someone in the same prison when I first arrived. It was a living hell inside with no one to help. And now I knew that the person who sent me in wasn't just David. Robert, the man I depended on, was also an accomplice. "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" Robert pushed the door open, his gaze falling on my damp hands. I shook my head and forced a smile. "Just a little nervous." He reached out and dried my fingers, his movements gentle as if handling something fragile. "Don't worry, I'm here. Let's go, everyone is waiting for the beautiful bride." Back then, I was touched by these seemingly insignificant details. But as I got lost in thought, the days in prison flashed before my eyes again. Those nights of being whipped with chains, covered in wounds, were a shadow I couldn't erase. In that moment, I suddenly felt utterly ridiculous. How could I have mistaken such a person's pretense for love? We walked down the hallway, one after the other. I stared at his back, thinking again of the day 3 months ago, when David and Sophia hosted the welcome party for their child. I was doused with red wine and cruelly humiliated. The dress I was wearing, the only decent one I'd bought since getting out of prison, was ruined. Across a few seats, I saw Sophia holding the baby, David's arm affectionately around her waist, and everyone was laughing. That's when Robert appeared. He took off his jacket and draped it over my shoulders, covering my dishevelment, and took me home. "Don't look. It's not worth it," Robert said tenderly. "Someone better will come to love you." Thinking about it now, it was truly ironic. He wasn't afraid of me being sad. He was afraid I would cause a scene and ruin his beloved's big day. "Remember to smile when we're greeting guests." Robert suddenly turned back. "You're the most beautiful leading lady today." Looking into his gentle eyes, my stomach churned. The most beautiful leading lady? No, I was the most ridiculous supporting character in this play. Before I even got downstairs, I could see Sophia standing out from the crowd, her white gown blinding. If Robert truly loved me, surely he wouldn't have invited David and Sophia in the first place. But he did. He even arranged for them to be seated so prominently. This moment, he lowered his voice and whispered to me, "Sophia is over there. Just go say hello later. You don't need to talk much." I followed his gaze. Sophia was laughing and chatting with a few ladies, with David sitting beside her. How absurd. Two men I had deeply loved had both become her loyal followers. She looked up and saw us, raised her glass, a faint smile playing on her lips. "She looks really beautiful today." I spoke. Robert pursed his lips, seemingly with a hint of reluctance. "Yes, that dress suits her very well. See?" Even now, he couldn't forget to praise her. A server passed by with a tray, and I took a glass of champagne. I tilted my head back and drank it down, feeling a little relief. I touched my abdomen. Thank goodness, this child will never know what a terrible liar his father is. It's about time. Let's go down. Robert took my hand and walked down the stairs. My fingertips trembled slightly in his palm. 3 months ago, he had done the same. Taken me away from that embarrassing scene at the welcome party. Only this time, I knew clearly how hypocritical and terrifying the owner of this hand was. He leaned close and whispered in my ear, "Smile. Everyone is looking at us." I lifted the corners of my mouth, my gaze sweeping across the room full of guests. Sophia was standing by the champagne tower, and on closer inspection, she was holding an exquisite gift box. Happy wedding! When we reached their table to greet guests, she came closer proactively. "This is a gift I specially prepared for you." Robert opened the gift box for me. When I saw what was inside, my breath stopped for a second. It was an oil painting, depicted a pair of hands and a window, identical to the one I had hung on the wall in my prison cell. The heavy memories rushed back. Clearly, Sophia was deliberately humiliating me. The next second, the frame hit the carpet with a muffled thud. Seeing this, Robert's voice instantly turned cold. "Sarah, you can't treat a guest's thoughtful gift like this. Pick it up. I know you don't like Sophia, but this is a public occasion. Don't be willful." I stared at his tense jawline, my voice trembling. "Do you know the meaning of this painting? Do you know she's rubbing salt in my wounds?" It was the first time I had lost my temper with Robert. He froze for a second, then bent down to pick up the frame. "That's still no reason for you to disrespect someone. Sophia kindly gave you a piece of art. Apologize to her." Robert didn't care about my pain at all, only blindly protecting Sophia, even if it meant embarrassing me. The whispers of the surrounding guests washed over me like a tide. I reached out to take the frame, just preparing to force myself to speak, when I heard Sophia feign magnanimity. "It's all right, Robert. It's understandable that Sarah doesn't like me. I can understand." Just then, David, who had been silent all along, finally spoke. Sarah, you're still the same as before, impatient and willful. Didn't you learn anything after spending a few years in prison? David's words were like sharp knives cutting deep. My eyes instantly turned red. But Robert was completely oblivious to my emotions. On the contrary, his attention was entirely captured by Sophia's next sentence. The doctor said my morning sickness is even worse this time than when I was pregnant with the first one. I'll just have water instead of wine today. Wishing you both a lifetime of happiness. Robert's movements froze. His gaze landed on Sophia's still flat abdomen. I was all too familiar with that look. It was the same way he looked at the college graduation photo in his study every time. Congratulations, Sophia. Robert's distraction was so obvious even a fool could see something was wrong. His nails were even digging into my palm. It wasn't until I flinched in pain that he came back to his senses and let go. I'm sorry, Sarah. I shook my head and instinctively linked my arm through his, but he reflexively stepped back half a step. That movement caused a few ladies nearby to exchange glances. I told you this bride isn't favored by Robert's family. Look, even the groom is trying to avoid her. A convicted financial criminal who went to prison, it's a miracle she even got into Robert's family. What more could she ask for? Just kept her as a trophy wife, I guess. Just as I felt lost and the atmosphere turned awkward, Susan suddenly walked over holding an ornate wooden box. I thought she was coming towards me. But instead, she completely bypassed me and stood between Robert and Sophia. I brought out our family's heirloom jewelry today. Susan smiled at the two of them. Sophia said she liked it last time. Consider it a welcome gift for the little one in your belly. Sophia covered her mouth and chuckled softly, unable to hide her smugness. Aunt Susan, this is too much. Susan personally opened the box. It's just a pity you're not my daughter-in-law, lass, but Aunt Susan will always only recognize you as my girl. These words were nothing short of outright humiliation. But Robert's eyes were full of Sophia, as if he were completely unaware of my embarrassing situation. Silently, I let go of Robert's arm and fled. I need to touch up my makeup. I had always known Robert's family didn't welcome me. No matter how hard I tried to please them, I could never be the innocent, untarnished Sophia. I just didn't expect Robert to actually follow me this time, cornering me around the turn. Mother and Sophia have known each other for a while. You should be able to understand, right? He rubbed my arm. Sarah, you will be the lady of the one household in the future. Be magnanimous. I looked up abruptly. He wanted me to be magnanimous? Facing 3 executioners, how could I possibly act as if nothing had happened? It's okay. I interrupted him. Pregnant women need care. As the host today, you should go look after her quickly. I just can't hold my liquor well. I'll go freshen up first. What a clumsy excuse. But Robert didn't notice anything and just left. In the end, it was actually David who heard I was feeling unwell and sent someone to bring me a glass of water. Robert didn't appear again until the wedding reception ended. I went home alone. Wedding decorations were still hung above the bed in the wedding suite. I sat alone at the dressing table, scrolling on my phone. I opened my Instagram feed. The latest post was a photo Sophia had just shared. In the picture, Robert and David stood on either side of Sophia, their hands gently resting on her slightly swollen abdomen. Caption read, "Happy family of 4." My fingers paused on the screen, and I suddenly felt a sharp pang in my abdomen. What ironic words. Just then my phone rang. My voice was eerily calm. Hello? What is it? On the other end, Robert's voice was slurred with drunkenness. Too tired today, not coming back. Get some rest early. I'll take you to a beach resort tomorrow. Didn't you always want to see the ocean? Also, remember to take your vitamins. His tone was gentle, like he was coaxing a child. Be a good girl and listen. I'll be back to pick you up tomorrow morning. After hanging up, I took out the vitamins I hadn't touched in a long time. I bowed my head and swallowed a pill. Then I walked into the bathroom. Warm water washed over the blood between my legs, spots of crimson spreading on the tiles. My phone rang and stopped ringing. Cramping in my abdomen grew more intense. I curled up by the edge of the bathtub, my fingers digging into the edge. Sarah, did you see Sophia's Instagram post? It's too much. Jessica's voice was full of anger. Apparently, they had just gone to the pool. Sophia seemed drunk and was accepting a punishment. She was actually wrapping her arms around Robert's neck, passionately kissing him in the dark. David was no longer by her side. Are you listening, Sarah? I didn't have the strength to answer. I looked down. The pool of blood was spreading. While they were intimately entwined in the pool, I was lying in the bathtub, watching the child slowly leave my body. The bleeding finally stopped at 4 in the morning. I dragged my shaky legs back to the bedroom. The sheets were already stained red. With trembling fingers, I called Robert's number. It was silent on the other end, but if I listened carefully, I could still hear 2 shallow breaths. Robert. HM? Till awake so late? Are you scared? I curved my lips faintly. For a moment, I suddenly wanted to laugh. He was holding another woman in his arms, yet he still pretended to care about me. I saw the Instagram post. Have fun. Robert's tone didn't change. Just joking around with friends. Sarah is the most understanding, right? Hearing this, I touched my cold abdomen. There had once been a tiny life there, but now it was terrifyingly empty. The baby is gone. A deathly silence fell over the other end of the phone. What baby? His voice held a rare hint of panic. I heard the rustle of fabric from the other end, followed by a woman's soft murmur. I heard Sophia asking coyly whose call it was. Robert's breathing grew heavier. Stop messing around, it's about work. So, in his words, I was merely work. If they were truly innocent, why couldn't my existence, my call, be spoken aloud? When he spoke again, his tone had returned to its usual gentleness. Sarah, are you too tired? Are you imagining things? Let's go to the hospital for a checkup tomorrow. I scoffed softly. Robert, why are you so certain I wouldn't get pregnant and miscarry? Doesn't your conscience bother you? Are you really not afraid? I couldn't help but raise my voice. Robert was momentarily choked. Through a long pause, he softened his tone. Sarah, it's our wedding day. Please don't be unreasonable, okay? But I didn't respond to him, only stated the heavy truth. The bottle of vitamins contained birth control pills, didn't it? No, to be precise, it's a drug that can silently kill a child, even if the woman is pregnant. Just a single pill. Pregnant woman might just think it's an unusually heavy period. Who would suspect a miscarriage? Stella. The moment I exposed him, even through the phone, I could feel his panic as he jolted up. You wait for me to come back. I'll explain it all when I get back. Hearing that, I chuckled lightly, feeling a strange sense of release. No need. Robert, I don't want you anymore. After hanging up, Robert called me frantically countless times, but without exception, they all went unanswered. The marital home was a mess. Looking around, I didn't take anything except a few outfits I'd bought myself, then left and closed the door. The 27th time the call went to voicemail, Robert kicked over the coffee table at home. Stella! He roared at the unanswered phone, his knuckles white. The scent of champagne from the wedding celebration still lingered in the living room. The pink wedding dress lay on the sofa like a discarded rag. The bathroom door was wide open. The glaring bloodstain had dried to a dark red. Robert felt his temples throb. Beside the pool of blood, the divorce papers were neatly placed on the sink, the woman's signature starkly decisive. The next second, perhaps provoked by the scene, Robert swept everything off the counter. The pill bottles on display shattered against the mirror, shards piercing his palm. Just then, the doorbell rang. Veronica walked in wearing high heels, wrinkling her nose. "What's that smell?" Her dismissive tone lasted until she saw the scene in the bathroom. My God, did she kill herself? Hearing this, Robert impatiently yanked off his tie. She said it was a miscarriage. Miscarriage? Are you kidding me? Veronica clearly thought it was a drama Stella staged for attention. You're so careful, how could she get pregnant? This is just a stunt because you didn't come home last night. Saying this, Veronica picked up the papers from the coffee table and sneered. Getting a divorce over this? Robert, a woman like this, who lacks common sense, isn't worth the trouble, is she? It's been so long. You don't need to compromise for me anymore. Even if she reports it, there isn't much evidence. Her finger tapped the signature. Just one night you didn't come home? Don't be so dramatic. A miscarriage, huh? But at that moment, Robert's mind was filled with Stella's call from last night. The baby is gone. Maybe she really was pregnant. Meanwhile, Veronica kept chattering. Robert, don't worry about her. Where could someone with a criminal record go? If you ask me, it's all just playing hard to get. Before she could finish, Robert grabbed her wrist, a hint of anger in his eyes. Did you just say criminal record? If it weren't for the messed up things we did back then, how would she, a completely innocent recent graduate, end up with a record? Veronica, anyone else can say that about her, but not you. Veronica clearly wasn't listening, and she struggled painfully, pulling her hand away. Robert, stop pretending. You were part of the reason she ended up in prison back then. What are you putting on a show of being noble and devoted for now? Right. Robert's eyes suddenly became unfocused and dull. What exactly had he done? For Veronica, for someone who didn't love him at all, he had driven a young woman in the prime of her life to this state. He looked at the little details in the room. Without realizing it, Stella had long since become integrated into his life. Stella, drink this herbal tea. Grandma wiped her hands on her apron and pushed the steaming ceramic bowl towards me. I stared at the goji berries floating on the surface of the herbal tea, suddenly remembering the glass of milk Robert used to give me every morning. Devotion and love can both be faked. It was laughable that I was still holding on to those memories now. Leave it there, Grandma, I'll drink it later. I reached for the watering can, but Grandma grabbed my wrist. You've only been in bed for a few days and you're getting up? Are you trying to kill yourself? Your mother had a miscarriage back then and she had to rest for a full 2 months. I hadn't experienced such pure love in a long time. I squinted, fighting back tears. The doctor said it was early, it's not a big deal. Thinking about my absence from the world of family affection all these years, I felt even more guilty towards this old woman who had raised me all by herself. Grandma's white hair was even more dazzling under the sun. Do you think I'm stupid? The wounds in your heart are much heavier than the one in your belly, aren't they? Don't hurt yourself anymore, child. No one and nothing is worth it. Besides, that child shouldn't have come. Grandma's few words woke me up. I touched my lower abdomen. Cramping was gone, but it felt empty, like a piece had been dug out. I lowered my head to drink the herbal tea, tears falling into the bowl. I shouldn't dwell on this withered, bleak marriage any longer. Grandma was stronger than me. Years ago, her husband absconded with money, and she raised my mother alone before raising me. So, when I appeared looking so defeated, all Grandma did was show concern. Under her care, I gradually regained my spirit. One day, while I was busy helping Grandma at the nursery, I suddenly heard hurried footsteps behind me. Stella. Robert's voice was incredibly hoarse. I didn't turn around, continuing to water Grandma's flowers. After a long pause, he spoke cautiously. Are you still mad at me? It's not that I didn't try to find you. I've been looking for you for a long time. Come home with me, okay? We're married after all. Stella, you can't just erase everything about me. I replied without changing my expression. This is my home. What kind of talk is that? Stella, are you really drawing a line between us so easily? He reached out to grab the watering can, and as I stepped aside to avoid him, I suddenly saw his appearance clearly. His eyes were bloodshot, and he exuded a sense of weariness. As our eyes met, Robert's Adam's apple bobbed. Stella, I didn't know you were pregnant. If I had, how could I have? If you knew, would you have poisoned me differently? I cut him off resolutely. Like when you helped Veronica, silently sending me to prison, and then showed up in my life pretending to be a savior. Hearing this, Robert's face instantly turned ashen. You heard all that? The sunlight suddenly became blinding, and I squinted. Does it matter? Robert, the moment you used and deceived me, you should have expected this day would come. But do you care? Through all, Veronica is all you ever see and care about. What am I to you? Oh, right, is Veronica's morning sickness still bad? But hearing this, Robert felt a jolt of jealousy. He stepped forward with a light chuckle. Is that what you care about so much? Stella, the position of Mrs. Robert is yours. Always. No one can take it away. Money, houses, I can transfer everything to your name. Anything you want, you can have. Please stop this, okay? Hearing this, I looked at him silently for a long time. Do you think I care about any of that? What? I stared at the lipstick marks smeared on his collar, my voice calm. If I hadn't taken the fall for Veronica, I'd be a practicing lawyer right now. His pupils contracted sharply. Under his gaze, I unbuttoned the third button of my shirt, revealing the ugly, centipede-like scar beneath my collarbone. Do you know how female inmates are treated in prison? Especially someone like me. They said fools who take the blame for others deserve to be beaten to death. My words. His fingers hung in the air, not daring to touch me again. So now the only way you can compensate me is to divorce me and then never bother me again. Perhaps not expecting such decisiveness from me, he, who had always been proud and privileged, was speechless. You'll regret this, Robert said, his voice hoarse. But I didn't even have the energy for pretense. I retorted sarcastically, my biggest regret is ever believing your lies in the first place. I had no idea when Robert left. Only after he left, someone offered a large sum to partner with Grandma's nursery, worth 7 figures. But immediately that evening, I saw photos of Veronica and Robert clashing at the company, which the media sensationalized. The headline was "Former Trios Falling Out." That night, Robert pushed open the door to the house. The small night light in the entryway was still on. Since the mistress of the house left, he hadn't returned. He stared at the pink fuzzy slippers, Stella's, neatly placed beside his black leather shoes. The sticky note stuck to the shoe cabinet was curling at the edges. A crooked smiley face was drawn on it, and beside it was written, "Remember to drink ginger tea." In the living room, the wedding dress had been taken away by the staff. On the coffee table was an unfinished puzzle. He remembered Stella always liked to play this while waiting for him to come home, saying it made time pass slower. The master bedroom door was ajar. The robe Stella had embroidered by hand was laid out on the bed, but it had never been worn. Memories flooded back. Robert suddenly grabbed his phone. Stella, I saw the robe you prepared. I love you. He typed on the screen for 20 minutes, finally sending a 3-page-long message. But after sending the message, a red exclamation mark immediately appeared. The next second, Robert violently threw his phone onto the bed, his blood boiling. Just then, the phone rang abruptly. Veronica's voice came through, tearful, shattering the quiet peacefulness. Robert, my stomach hurts so much. He stared at the hair tie Stella had left on the vanity table and asked in a low voice, "Where's Edward?" "He's in a meeting. He can't get back right away." And Robert's voice was terrifyingly cold. Your baby's father is in a meeting, so you come to me? The other end of the call was clearly taken aback. Why are you talking like that? For the first time, Robert lost his patience. Veronica, my responsibility has never been to you. Hanging up the phone, Robert slumped onto the seat in front of the vanity. The man in the mirror had stubble on his chin. A drawer was half open. An album lay inside. Clearly someone had opened it but hadn't had time to close and put it away properly. He opened it with trembling hands. The first page was a photo of Stella wearing a graduation gown. It was the year she graduated, when she should have been embarking on a wonderful journey. The edges of the photo looked like they had been traced over countless times. Just then, his phone rang again. It was a voice message from Veronica. Are you crazy? You're treating me like this for a woman who's been to prison. Robert called her back. Veronica, stop saying been to prison every other word. My biggest regret right now is listening to you and letting Stella take the blame for you. That suffering should have been yours. Why should it be inflicted on her? For saying this, he smashed his phone to pieces, then hugged the album tightly to his chest, like a lost treasure he had found again. Later, in the bottom drawer of the vanity, he found a notebook. The first page contained Stella's elegant handwriting. Internship accepted at a top national law firm. The date was 1 week before she was arrested. In the following days, Robert went to great lengths to compensate me. Grandma's place, I received orders every day, each one unique and all very expensive. Grandma even unexpectedly sensed something was up. But who would turn down money? Until one day, Veronica deliberately filed a lawsuit against the nursery. I pushed the documents to the center of the negotiation table. Mr. Miller suddenly sneered. Miss Stella certainly knows her legal statutes, but I wonder if she was so professional when she was breaking the law herself? Conference room fell silent instantly. I slowly closed my folder. Mr. Miller is curious why I went to prison. Why don't you ask your client? Veronica tapped the table and said shamelessly, What about me? If Edward and Robert hadn't pulled strings, someone like you who committed white-collar crime would have gotten at least 10 years. As I finished speaking, the door was pushed open inwards and Robert stood in the doorway, impeccably dressed in a suit. Veronica, that's enough. Veronica's red lips curved up, but with clear displeasure. What? Feeling protective of your wife now? But she couldn't even keep your baby. It's clear she doesn't want to be with you anymore. Why are you sticking your neck out? Hearing this, veins bulged on Robert's forehead. Veronica, if you say one more word, I swear I'll withdraw my investment in the Ning family immediately. Veronica's expression froze, filled with indignation. Everything I did was for you. Too lazy to listen to them play acting in front of me, I took out a document from my bag and pushed the list of evidence towards her. Also, tell Edward that I found the original financial records from 3 years ago. At my words, Veronica and Robert's faces changed dramatically at the same time. I watched them, feeling satisfied. What, afraid I'll win my appeal? Robert, who was standing beside me, grabbed my wrist, his voice low so only we could hear. Stella, don't do this. Let's go home and talk properly. Home? I pried his fingers off one by one. Do you call the place where you poison me every day home? Hearing this, Veronica finally seized the opportunity and said impatiently, Robert, did you hear that? Is this the kind of woman worth defending? I told you to shut up. Robert's roar made my eardrums ring. When he turned to me, his voice softened again. The drugs were my fault, but no one knew you were pregnant. But his words were useless. I packed away my briefcase and looked back from the doorway. Mr. Robert, remember to sign the divorce papers. Otherwise, at the court hearing, I'll have to ask the judge to combine both cases. I left cleanly and decisively, completely ignoring Robert's calls from behind me. That evening, to organize the case files, I worked until midnight despite feeling sick. When the phone rang, I was just swallowing a fever reducer. Robert's voice came through the receiver, still with that nauseatingly gentle tone. Now that the nursery case has been settled, can we just let the old case go? I stared at the heavy rain outside and responded coldly, Mr. Robert, what capacity are you speaking to me in now? As the perpetrator? Or the accomplice? Back then, you had a pregnant Veronica falsify accounts, and after it was exposed, you made me take the blame. Are you scared now? There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end of the line. Edward won't let you reopen the case. Oh, really? I opened the latest photos I had collected as evidence. Then he'd better come tell me that himself. Though, I doubt he has the nerve, does he? After hanging up, I realized my forehead was burning. Not long after calling my assistant, the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, Robert stood outside, soaked to the bone. Stella, Chris is sick today too. Call went to the private doctor, and I happened to overhear. Can you please let me in? You have a fever you can't delay. I brought medicine for you too. At least take it first, don't make Grandma worry. The mention of Grandma, I opened the door a crack and swallowed the medicine right in front of him. Now you can get out. He staggered back slightly, looking hurt. Do you have to treat me like this? Stella, you look so much thinner. Thanks to you. I shrugged him off. After all, someone was poisoning me every day. How could I be healthy? He opened his mouth, then suddenly started coughing violently. Stella, I can make up for all the past mistakes, but we can't keep making the same mistake over and over. Robert wiped his mouth haphazardly and said earnestly, Stella, don't pursue that lawsuit. I turned and closed the door. So that's what this is about. Are you worried about what I might find? Like how you knew Veronica was falsifying accounts but helped Edward forge my signature. Hearing my blunt words, Robert's face turned whiter than paper. You know all of it? That's right. I leaned closer to him. Just one last piece of evidence is missing. Do you think Veronica will turn you both in to save herself? A clap of thunder boomed outside the window, illuminating his pale face. He suddenly fell to his knees and grabbed my waist. I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. I'll give you anything you want. Don't destroy yourself, Stella. You can't fight them. Even now, Robert still thought I was destined to fail against powerful odds. But in this world, there's only retribution that comes late. I grabbed his soaked collar, gritting my teeth. Robert, the moment you watched the police take me away, I was already destroyed. At my words, Robert's fingers slowly loosened. I turned my back on him. Now, get out. In the sound of the heavy rain, he slowly walked towards the door but stopped at the entryway. Stella, is there still a chance for us? I answered silently. The moment the door closed, my phone lit up. It was a message from my lawyer. She agreed to be a witness. I swallowed 2 more fever reducers, watching as the rain outside began to lighten. Dawn was breaking. The day of the court ruling, the sunlight was blindingly painful. As Veronica was led away, her meticulously manicured hands clutched the railing tightly, still unwilling and resentful. Edward, however, looked calm, only turning to glance at me when he heard his sentence. I held up the voice recorder in my hand and shook it at him. When the crowd dispersed, Robert blocked the back exit of the courthouse. He had lost a lot of weight. His suit hung loosely on him like a giant skeleton. When he saw me, his voice trembled. Stella, I knew you couldn't bear to do it. I knew you still have feelings for me. I walked around him. Mr. Robert, you're in the way. But Robert chased after me and grabbed my arm. You could have sued me too, but you didn't. Stella, won't you admit it? Admit what? Why I didn't do it. His eyes suddenly lit up like a dog spotting a bone. I scoffed inwardly, slowly taking a USB drive from my bag. Because sending you straight to prison would be too easy on you. This contains all the financial irregularities of your company over the years, enough to make the one group go bankrupt 3 times over. Looking at Robert's ashen face, I leaned close to his ear. Remember that unfinished building project from 3 years ago? The families of the construction workers who jumped have contacted me recently. I don't hate Edward's betrayal, nor Veronica's selfishness. I hate you even more. I hate your exploitation and deception. You are the one who personally ruined my life. Color drained from his face instantly. Just then, hurried footsteps came from a distance. I took 2 steps back, watching as 5 or 6 burly men surrounded him. "Mr. Robert, we finally found you." The old man leading them held up a crumpled photo. "My daughter was only 22 when she died." Realizing something was wrong, Robert looked at me in panic, just as I placed the USB drive into the hand of one of the victim's family members. "No. Tella, listen to me. I wasn't in charge of those construction accidents." But he had only taken 2 steps before someone grabbed his tie. By the time the screams began, I was already in my car. In the rearview mirror, he was curled up on the ground, holding his head, having even lost one of his leather shoes. Soon after the car started, Chloe sent me a message. When Group's stock price plummeted 60%. Robert's phone call came late at night. "Are you satisfied? Stella." His voice was hoarse. In the background, I could hear the sound of hospital equipment. "I'm crippled and the company is finished." In the silent night, I heard his labored breathing. "Can you forgive me now?" There was a pause, 1 second, 2 seconds. "Never." "Robert, I hate you. Until the day you die."